first grade. Mrs. Taima here. Are you ready for our reading lesson for today? I bet you're so excited because I am. Today, Miss Spears and I will be teaching together to help you learn the important message of the 7 blind mice. Remember, the important message is the lesson or what the author wants us to learn. Remember when we read The Hare and the Tortoise and we learned that the important message was even if you are slow, if you keep going slowly and steadily, you can win the race. In 7 Blind Mice, you read that each mouse felt a different part of the elephant. And based on the part of the elephant that they felt, they thought it was a certain animal. But then the white mouse, he felt all the parts of the elephant. What happened? Well, you're going to keep watching with Miss Spears to find out the important lesson from 7 Blind Mice.
Hello, first grade friends, and welcome back to Wit and Wisdom in Sync. My name is Tanisha Spears, and I'm excited to jump into our lesson. But before we do, let's make sure you have all of your materials ready. For this lesson, you will need your copy of 7 Blind Mice, if you have one, handout 2A, which is the topic sandwich chart, your Wit and Wisdom in Sync journal, and a pencil. We will also go over the focusing question task assessment, but I'll show that on the screen for you. Pause the video if you need to gather your materials. In our previous work, we discussed characters' actions and learned about the importance of speaking and writing in complete sentences. And today we'll think about important messages and details, as well as writing informative paragraphs. I want to remind you that the learning and thinking you are doing each day while reading these fables is helping you build your knowledge to answer the focusing question, which is, what lessons can we learn through stories about animals? I'd like for you to read it with me this time. What lessons can we learn through stories about animals? And the question that will frame our learning for today is, what is the important message of this text, specifically thinking about 7 blind mice? I'm going to read the question that will frame our learning for today one more time. And as I read, I want you to read along with me. What is the important message of this text? Remember, in this text, the important message is a lesson that the author wants us as readers to learn. And for our work today, we'll think about how the colorful mice figured out that they were touching an elephant and what lesson the mice learned. To help us figure out the lesson, let's review key events from the story. What I'd like you to do is take a moment and look at the story map on the screen. And I want you to think, what key events do you remember from the story? Share with your learning partner. Here's what I remember, and as I share, I want you to see if my thinking matches yours. 7 blind mice noticed a strange something by their pond. The 6 colorful mice explored the strange something one by one. They all thought it was something different. For example, one mouse thought it was a snake, another thought it was a fan. The problem was that they didn't know what it was. And they didn't figure out until the white mouse ran over the whole elephant. The white mouse realized it was an elephant, and the other mice then ran over the elephant and agreed with the white mouse. Now that we've reviewed the key events from the story, let's think about what possible lessons we could learn from the story. Here are 2 possible lessons. Being last is the best. Knowing all the parts will help you figure out the whole. Remember, a lesson has to have key details from the text to support it. And as I think about the first lesson, being last is the best, I can't think of many details that support that one. I don't remember any details when the mice said being last was the best. Let me think about the second lesson. Knowing all the parts will help you figure out the whole. Let's see if we can find more details to support this lesson. We read about how each mouse explored one part, but couldn't figure out what the strange something was. Now, that supports this lesson because it shows the mice needed to explore all the parts to figure out the whole. Now, you are going to think of some more details from the text that support this lesson. Remember, in a previous video, we talked about the actions of the colorful mice, and we talked about what the white mouse did. Think for a minute. What did the white mouse do? Now think. Could details about what the white mouse did support this lesson? And remember, the lesson is knowing all the parts will help you figure out the whole. Now, think about the details from the story just a little bit more. And if you have the book, you can look through it again for more details. When you are done thinking, you can draw or write some details that support the lesson. And remember, the lesson is knowing all the parts will help you figure out the whole. Remember, you're going to write about details that help us understand the lesson. Are you ready? Pause the video now to write details that support the lesson of knowing all the parts will help you figure out the whole. Now, I bet you thought of several details that support this lesson. I wonder, did you think about how the white mouse explored all the parts? And how he figured out it was an elephant because he explored the whole elephant? I'm sure you did. Remember, fables usually end by telling readers the lesson. So let's read the lesson from the text now. Knowing in part may make a fine tale, but wisdom comes from seeing the whole. I'll read it one more time. Knowing in part may make a fine tale, but wisdom comes from seeing the whole. Now, in this fable, tale is another word for story, and wisdom means having knowledge about something. And when you learn new things, you gain wisdom. Now, take a look at the chart on your screen. You've seen us use this before. The middle column is the lesson that we identified today. And the third column, or the column on the right, includes the lesson from the fable. We'll continue thinking about the lessons of the fable as we are working on writing next. Remember, the lesson we identified was knowing all the parts will help you figure out the whole. And the lesson from the text is knowing in part may make a fine tale or story, but wisdom comes from seeing the whole. Before we jump into writing, I want you to pause the video to take a moment to stretch or just take a quick break. When you're done, unpause the video.